Hello, everybody. My name is Tom, and I'm with the esteemed author, J.C. Finnegan. Today, we'll be doing a short interview about his latest book that will be released on, is it the 7th of May, 2024, John?
That is correct.
All right, well, let's just jump into the deep end. Could you give us kind of an elevator pitch for the book um, and the series? Because it's part two of a four-part series, correct?
That is correct. Imagine if Andy Dufresne, instead of having to escape from Shawshank Prison, he had to escape from his bedroom.
All right. Can you expand on that?
Well,
Is that crippling depression or something?
yeah, it's kind of a
Sounds like,
commentary. In a lot of ways, it's a commentary on modern society. So we have a character that's trapped in his own bedroom, if you will, trapped in his own mind. And he's a schizophrenic. And his brother is a successful social media influencer. And his brother kind of comes to visit him on Independence Day and sees the state of things. And our story is set in motion at that point.
okay. So I read the first book, The Green Forest. To the audience members that have have read that book, are there any striking differences? Will they be surprised by how you chose to follow up the first?
Yeah, great. So I think this book is slightly different in tone. It's kind of a natural development with the series because we're moving from one region to another. So the first book is set in dystopian Northeast, and kind of the supreme value in that area is equality. And in this novel, the setting moves to the Southeast, where the main value there is freedom. So there's this big theme of freedom in the novel, and the tone is a little bit different, but there are still I'm still the author, so there's still a similar vibe to the book. It's not very, very different in tone from the first.
This one's kind of out of left field, but I did think of it. I have a little list here of questions.
Uh-oh.
You know a fair bit about philosophy and different philosophers, their ideas, their general tropes. For example, in your first book, I can't recall his name. What was the his old teacher's name?
Hogan.
Mr. Hogan. I won't go into details, but I would think of him in a similar vein as Diogenes the dog, philosophy wise. And you are kind of a thoughtful guy. Just to the audience, I know John. He's one of my friends, so we know each other. He is a very thoughtful guy. He's well versed in philosophy. Do you have any themes in this book that you could attach to a particular philosopher, even if it's just an element of the book and not an overarching theme?
Yeah, I think there's a Nietzschean theme in this book that I actually specifically mention, where we allude to a last man, and then contrast that with kind of an Ubermensch. So I think that the last man is, what is it, Letzler Mensch, and so there's that theme where the main character, the social influencer guy, kind of really rejects that idea of living life as a last man, as a man that just values the simple things in life. I would think of like a Homer Simpson guy, who just trudges through life and then looks forward to some television and beer at the end of the night.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, how much of your books, how much of these series, like how autobiographical is it, would you say? I mean, obviously you're going to mold characters off of people you've met or archetypes you're familiar with. Just I would think every author does that. But how autobiographical would you say your stories are?
It's a good question. Not so autobiographical. It's kind of like I take something that exists inside of me in a corner and then I amplify that. So if you're talking about this schizophrenic guy, I find something inside me and then exaggerate it. Or if we're talking about the uber successful social media guy, I create this fantasy, if you will, out of attributes that I might want to create in myself. So
Mhm.
let's say that I could improve this and this and this and this and this. What would that look like?
Mhm. Okay, that's interesting. So we get to see like an insight to your aspirations in the social media influencer guy. Let's see. Oh, I guess this is a standard question, but and you have to go through this process. What labels do you have you put upon it? Uh, in the on Amazon, you have to do this. So would it be horror? Would it be thriller? Would it be mystery? How would you label this one?
Right. So Amazon has a couple different steps that you go through in terms of categorizing the book. So I was able to click several different boxes. So I've put it in satirical fiction, I think contemporary fiction. Uh, I know I've clicked mystery before. There are some elements of a mystery in this story.
Okay, this one's more meta, but what made you choose to start writing? You were in your early 40s when you wrote your first book. Um, I know for a fact that you in high school maybe wrote one or more raps. You're a good speaker. I mean, you have experience speaking in front of crowds. What drew you to the novel specifically as a place to put your time and your sort of creative drive?
Yeah, in high school I did dabble with it. I would say when I was in high school, I enjoyed English. I liked writing, but back then my style, if I were to read something that I wrote in high school, it would be very too on the nose, is what they would say. That's kind of
Wait, can you tell us what that means? I know what that means, but some of the audience might not. What does it mean when something's too on the nose? You can use the Everclear example as well. That's a good one.
yeah, just too blatant. You're hitting somebody over the head with something as opposed to, artistically approaching a topic or approaching it uh, a little bit more subtly. So the Everclear example was it the Heroin Girl song, or they had
Father of Mine.
one.
I think it was the song Father of Mine by
Oh
Everclear, but
yeah,
it's really
okay.
all their songs.
Father of mine. Yeah. Father of mine. Dun, 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 dun. Um,
They just describe a stereotype. And so it's like leaning on a stereotype, I guess. Like for example, in the second of the latest Batman trilogy with the Joker with Heath Ledger,
yeah.
there was a scene where he threw Eric Roberts, who's a gangster in the movie, off of a balcony, and like laying there with his broken legs, Eric Roberts basically said the whole point of the film, like, "Oh, you can't fight the Joker because you have to draw lines for you." And he was just saying the whole point of the
Right.
movie. And I remember thinking that was shooting for the lowest common denominator. But okay,
Yeah. I could think of an example if examples of two on the nose, if you wanted to, I don't know, create a character and you named them Ronald Rump, and he
yeah,
and he was your
and you
super
over
villain, and then you just amplified every bad characteristic about the guy and like bludgeoned people over the head with a political message, very heavy-handed.
did you hear? I think we may have talked about it at the time. I'd say this is probably 2020, 2019. maybe 21. Marvel Comics did some overlap with Jordan Peterson and Red Skull. They hated on Jordan Peterson by making the villain Red Skull. I think that's Captain America's enemy into
Yeah.
a Jordan Peterson type.
Yeah, I
But
do
all right, let's
remember
see.
hearing that. Yeah.
What's your target demographic? Who, first of all,
Yeah.
well, I guess who do you think the highest percentage of people of this demographic will be attracted to your work?
Yeah, I need to find them. So it's a matter of them finding my book and my finding them. I think the book, I like to reach everybody. Like, let's just start there, but that's not very realistic. The book won't appeal to everyone. That's just an impossibility. So if I wanted to come up with a specific demographic, I would describe it thusly. Probably males between the ages of 20 and up until like the lower level boomer age where boomers begin. No, I'm just kidding.
Go into
Boomers
the
can enjoy
50s.
it too. Boomers can enjoy it. Um,
Well, boomers will think it's like a dystopia. They won't realize how close we are to it.
yeah.
I haven't read the second one, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. That was a reference to the first one. This one is not yet released. I have not graced my eyes with it
Yeah,
quite yet.
but I think there are some Christian themes in it. I neglected to mention that. Um, there are some political themes. It's not overly political, however. So I think that people who aren't Christian could definitely find the book appealing. People that aren't, let's say, aligned with a specific political party, um, they could find the book appealing. The book is asking a lot of questions as opposed to, like I was talking about, hitting people over the head with an idea. So in that regard, I think a lot of people um, could enjoy it and interpret it their own way.
It's not overtly religious, but it does have Christian themes. But you don't think that that'll put people off. It won't. It's not heavy-handed.
Correct. So I don't want to give away too much, but it's not necessarily pro-Christian or anti-Christian or pro-Republican or anti-Republican. Like you have characters with different points of views, so people can interpret it their own way. Um, I think, like we've talked about earlier, I think nowadays it's hard to find people in this audience, like let's say in my target demographic, that are avid novel readers. I think a lot of people nowadays, they get a lot of their information from social media, from maybe movies and podcasts. So I'm trying to find them. It's like, listen, there are some books out there that are not about, Green Goblin, aliens, and what else? Indian 12-year-olds picking seashells on the shore. You could find something else.
Yeah, or Indian women killing their husbands.
Yeah.
That's a reference to a book that one of my neighbor's daughters wrote. What did I say? The something bandits? I don't know. The queen bandits, bandit queens. All right, let's see. I've asked most of. All right, so in this is kind of the opposite of the target demographic question, but everything these days is triggering to some degree to some people. I mean, it used to be a specifically left phenomenon. Now you've got quote unquote snowflakes everywhere you look. Who do you think would be the less receptive demographically to your book? Most likely to be triggered, so to speak.
Oh, wow.
If anyone. I mean, if I guess in some cases no one would be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain class of people that are looking to be offended. They want to be offended. So someone of that writes the way I do isn't going to be able to prevent myself from offending them. Like they're going to be offended by almost anything. So those, I would say that fringe group of people, I mean, they're probably the same people that are protesting on college campuses right now.
Was it I remember liking the term recreational outrage or something recreational offense or recreational outrage. For so
Right.
many people, that is kind of a hobby. It's like a sick, twisted, dark hobby.
Right. I mean, right now there are people that are employed that offer services to ensure that a work of art, a novel, uh, is culturally sensitive enough. I think they're called sensitivity readers. So I did not employ a sensitivity reader.
Mhm.
Therefore, there's a certain class of people that might be offended by the fact that I
And
did
even if you
not.
hire one, I think it's kind of like hackers are always one step ahead of the anti-hackers. I think the offended are always one step ahead of the editors. They'll find something, even if you get one of those editors. All right, I think that's I was going to ask you some troll questions, but they didn't feel appropriate as we were doing. So I think I've asked most of the main points. Is there anything else you want to? Oh, can you give us maybe a little hint about the next two books? Is there anything you can tell us about the third one coming up after we're done with this one?
Sure. The third one takes place in the Pacific. So that's out in Cali,
Hmm.
your hometown. We're going back to Cali, dude. Going back to Cali. So that one's really fun. I've already written at least one third of it. So I would almost say one half. I'm well along with that one already. And it's gonna be a fun little romp. Like these books are just fun little romps. Like this one, the third one of the Pacific is silly. Like it's crazy. Like now I'm going to the land of diversity. And you
So
know,
that's their main core, their theme.
yeah, yeah, that's what I would say. I would say that's the theme there. Yeah. So the design of it is that the Northeast and the Pacific are kind of aligned. So if you think about the United States as it exists today, in the last 20 years, we've seen, some similarities, let's say, between a New York and a California
Hmm.
politically.
Hmm.
And then there would be kind of an alliance between the Southeast and the frontier region. So this would be an alliance with like the Florida area and Idaho folks,
Hmm.
right? Or Montana. Those are states that are in the frontier. So then the fourth book takes place in the frontier. And actually, uh, don't want to say all, but it's mostly set in Texas. Texas in my series is in the frontier.
And what's their ethos? We have freedom in the Southeast. We have diversity. Is it equality? Is it equity that you
Yeah,
said in the
I went with
Northeast?
equality. Like I did think about using the word equity, but I just went with equality. And
Mhm.
then the frontier is truth.
Truth.
Truth, yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to slide in here before we finish up? I think I got
You
all my
could throw in a couple
stuff.
of your troll questions. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I was gonna try and find I was gonna piggyback off the autobiography, and then I was gonna, okay, answer that, and I'll talk about, something about childhood, da da da, growing up, and then I was gonna ask you how old you were when you came out of the closet to your family,
Oh my
and just
Lord.
slide that in. And what was the other one?
But they still don't know. No, just kidding.
No, I had a couple little silly. I figured if there was an opportunity, I'd toss it in, but no such opportunity presented. So, all right, man, we'll wrap it up here, and good luck with your book. I will be reading it as soon as it comes out.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, later, man.
See ya.